Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new on here, my name is Philip and this is Phil Reacts. Yes, today we are diving into one of the heaviest and the most influential albums in rock and metal history. Black Sabbath's Paranoid. If you love hard riffs, if you love dark vibes, and music that basically invented heavy metal, this album, is I mean this is the album that started it all. And let me tell you, I've been waiting for this one. So grab your headphones, crank the volume up, and let's experience this master of an album together. Quick little backstory before we jump in. Paranoid, based on a few facts that I pulled up, dropped in 1970. Guys, 1970. Just a few months, after Black Sabbath's, debut. The band, Ozzy Osbourne, on vocals, Tommy Iommi on guitar, and Butler, on bass, and then we have Bill Ward, on drums. They were literally, inventing a new sound. I love the fact that they didn't call it heavy metal yet, but this album became the blueprint. Yeah, from political messages to straight up the doom laden riffs. Paranoid to me, based on a few facts that I put up, like I said, shaped rock and metal, for decades to come. Now, we are going to listen to this album track by track, go into it. And after every song, I'm definitely going to, give my honest review, my honest thoughts, about each track, have the lyrics pulled up. I'm actually listening to it on Spotify, so the lyrics is, listening to the song, comes with the lyrics, so that should help. This album is just 8 songs, spans a little over 41 seconds and 41 minutes and 46 seconds. Yes, so we better not waste any more time. So we start with the first song, War Pigs. Let's take a listen, guys. Okay, let's go. It's about to go down, guys. Yeah.
Ooh. Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction. In the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning. Death and hatred to mankind, poisoning their brainwashed minds. Oh Lord, yeah.
Let's go. We breathe it again. Okay.
Now in darkness, world stops turning. Ashes where the body's burning. No more war pigs have the power. And as God has struck the hour, day of judgment, God is calling. On the knees, the war pigs crawling, begging mercies for the sins. Satan laughing spreads his wings. Oh Lord, yeah.
Guys, wow, this is definitely going to be a hell of a ride. Just listen to War Pigs, and I'm pretty sure lots of you guys know this song. One of the best metal songs out there. Right, from the bass, you get that ominous riff, from Tony Iommi. I mean, I love the fact that it's slow, it's heavy, and immediately sets this dark, almost apocalyptic, sort of mood. Then we have Ozzy Osbourne, coming in with the vocals. His vocals, haunting, it's eerie and full of bite. I love the fact that he doesn't sing this like a detached, narrator. He sounds like a prophet, warning us, of doom. The production feels raw, it feels gritty, but in the best way possible. I love the fact that this song, vocally captures the heaviness, without over polishing it. I don't know if that makes sense. Yes. Rest in peace to Ozzy Osbourne. Now, the lyrics, guys. So, based on a few facts that I pulled up, this song was written by Butler, and I feel like Butler, he really went in. Generals gather in your masses, Just like witches at Black Marses, guys. Right away, this man, is painting war leaders, as evil figures, almost, satanic. The whole song, is basically, calling out politicians, and generals, who send the poor, to fight wars, while, they sit back safely. Certain lines in there, lines like politicians, hide themselves away. They only started a war. Why should they go out to fight? That line really, really hits hard. They leave that role, to the poor. That really, 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 really hit hard. I mean, it's 1970. The Vietnam War is raging, and here's Black Sabbath, saying exactly what a lot of people were feeling. I'm pretty sure really, really hit hard. Back in the day. I mean, the lyrics of the song is definitely out there. The way the song, moves, it's incredible. As a listener, I have to say. I mean, Bill Ward's, drumming, is chaotic, but control. I mean, it feels like bombs dropping, almost mimicking the chaos of war. Just the Butler's in the bass, also drives underneath, like a heartbeat. Then you've got Tommy Iommi. Tommy Iommi's riffs and solos. They are crushing, but also super melodic. And I love how the song evolves. It's not just one riff repeated. It builds. Shifts tempos, and that ending section. Often referred to as Luke's Wall. To me, feels like the aftermath. Of destruction. By the time you get to the end, you've been on a whole journey, guys. I loved it. Definitely, definitely. I mean, War Pigs to me is more than just a metal track. It's social commentary, if you ask me. I mean, it sounds more like a protest music. It's Black Sabbath. At their absolute peak of creativity. And the crazy thing, these lyrics, are just as relevant today. The abuse of power, the cost of war, it hasn't gone away, guys. I mean, that's why this song, still feels urgent, still gives people chills, people such as myself. To me, this isn't just, one of, Black Sabbath, best. It's one of the greatest, heavy metal songs, of all time, period. I loved it. Definitely loved it, man. And what a way to actually kickstart this album. But then, that's my take. What about you guys? When you first heard War Pigs, what stood out most? Was it the riff? Was it the message? Was it, Ozzy Osbourne's vocals? And do you think this is Black Sabbath's ultimate song, or that's another one take down the crown for you? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives and such as this one, guys. We are moving on to the second song titled Paranoid. Yes, the title track for the album. Let's take a listen, guys. guys. Paranoid. Woo. This was a journey, guys. This one really really hit hard. I have to say. I mean, as always, the first thing that hits you is Tommy Iommi's riff. I love the fact that it's sharp, it's urgent, and it definitely grabs you as a listener. By the color. From the very first and the second. There's no warm up. No build up. It just launches you straight into motion. I mean, it's one of those riffs that is so simple, but instantly recognizable. I love the fact that it feels restless, almost like the music itself is paranoid. Yeah, Ozzy Osbourne, rest in peace to him. I mean, his vocals here, is raw and vulnerable. The way he delivers those lines. Can you help me? Occupy my brain. I mean, you can definitely hear the desperation. In his tone. It's not polished, or theatrical. It's very, very human. So based on a few facts that I put up, a lot of people think this song, is literally, about paranoia. But just Butler, who wrote the lyrics, later admitted, it was actually about his depression. That really, really makes sense if you ask me. I mean, when you listen closely, it's not just about fear. It's about emptiness. About that feeling of searching for something, to fix, what's broken inside. Yeah. Bill Ward's drumming, is also very, very tight. It's relentless, and I love the fact that he drives the song forward, without ever, feeling overdone. Just Butler's bass, also, sits perfectly, under the guitar. Not flashy, but solid and almost hypnotic. And then, there is Tommy, Iommi, who somehow wrote a riff, that's been somehow stuck, in rock culture, for over 50 years. To me, what is wild is how short this track is. Under 3 minutes. Go figure. But I mean, as much as it's short, it says everything. It needs to. No filler. Just straight to the point, and I loved it. Based on a few facts that I pulled up, this song shot Black Sabbath into the mainstream. It hit number 4, in the UK charts, and it basically, became the gateway song, for anyone getting into, heavy metal. Think about that. A band from, Birmingham, working class guys, coming out of a bleak, industrial environment, and I mean, they dropped a song that influenced in the decades of music. Bands from Metallica to, Iron Maiden, to modern stoner metal, all trace back, to this kind of energy. Yeah, I mean, that's just facts, guys. So, I mean, one may ask, what makes this song Paranoid special? For me, I mean, it's the honesty. It's heavy, without being overcomplicated. It's vulnerable without being soft. And it definitely connects because, it's so real. They didn't overthink it. And maybe that's why it still works today. Not many songs, written in 20 minutes, go on to become rock history, but this one definitely, absolutely did. All right, I want to throw this to you guys. Where does the Paranoid rank, for you in the Black Sabbath catalog? Is it their ultimate classic, or do you prefer War Pigs, or other songs above it? Drop your thoughts below, because I know Black Sabbath fans, are gonna have opinions, on this one. Yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. We move on to the third song titled Planet Caravan. Let's take a listen. Okay.
Down from night, and so we passed on by
Wow.
the crimson eye. Oh, great God, as we travel.
Wow. Yeah. 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 Wow. Okay. Wow. All right, guys. Yes, the third song, Planet's Caravan. Wow. I mean, after listening to this song, I definitely have to say, I mean, first thing that hits you is the atmosphere. Instead of Tommy Iommi's usual earth shattering riffs, we get this laid back, almost jazzy, guitar line, drifting along. Jesus Butler, kept the bass, subtle and smooth, I have to say, and then you've got these, soft, almost tribal, sound and percussion touches. I love the fact that it's hypnotic, almost like you are in a trance. Yeah, and then Ozzy Osbourne's vocals, it was just wow, guys. I mean, they don't even sound like the Ozzy, we usually hear. So based on a few facts that I pulled up, they ran his voice, through a Leslie speaker, which gave it this swirling, ghostly effect. It's like his voice, is literally, orbiting around you. Based off my own experience in listening to this song, you feel like you are floating with him through the cosmos. Vocally, guys, they really really went in. Now let's talk about the lyrics. So based off of a few facts that I pulled up, about the song. Jesus Butler, wrote them, as he described the song, as floating through the universe, with your loved one. And I feel like that's exactly the vibe. I mean, for certain lines in there, we sail through endless skies, stars shine like eyes, the black night sighs. It's pure cosmic poetry, if you ask me. I mean, instead of, singing about war or paranoia, like on the rest of the album, this is Black Sabbath, step in. It's a pure, escapism. It's romantic, it's dreamy, and it's such a, curveball, compared, to songs like, War Pigs and, Paranoia, or, any of your other songs, if you ask me. For me, the highlight is that combination of Ozzy Osbourne's, ghostly vocal tone and, Tommy, Iommi's, delicate, guitar fills. And normally, Black Sabbath, crushes you with, power chords, but here, Tony, shows, just how, expressive, he can be with, restraint, So based on a few facts, that I pulled up, we have, Tom Allen, the engineer. I mean, he sneaked in, some piano flourishes, that's right. I mean, piano on a Black Sabbath track, in 1970, totally unexpected. I have to say, wow, this track is such a bold move, on this album, Paranoid. You've got these, heavy hitters, all around it, but then Planet's Caravan, floats in and gives you as a listener, this moment of peace, like a deep breath between storms. Based on a few facts that I pulled up once again, critics, have even called it a precursor, to space rock and psychedelic metal. And to me, the legacy definitely lives on. I read, that a Pantera, famously covered this song, on Far Beyond Driven. In the 90s, proving that, even the heaviest in the bands, saw the beauty, in Black Sabbath's, softer side. Yeah. So, here's my honest and fair take. Planet's Caravan, might not be what you expect, from, Black Sabbath, but I feel like that's what makes it so special. Definitely shows their versatility, their willingness, to experiment, and it gives us, this timeless, atmospheric, piece that still holds up today, in my opinion. If you are listening to the album, straight through, I feel like this song, feels like, drifting weightlessly, before you get, slammed back down to earth, with, the other songs. It's more of like the calm, before the storm. But that's just me. What about you guys? Do you think the song Planet in the Caravan, is an underrated masterpiece? Or, does it feel, out of place on this album, Paranoid? And which version do you prefer? Black Sabbath's original or Pantera's cover? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. Yes, I definitely would love to read them. Yeah, so we are moving on to the fourth song, Iron Man. Let's take a listen, guys. Let's go. Ooh. Guys, Iron Man, guys. Wow. Guys, I feel like I mean right from the very first second, when Ozzy Osbourne growls, I am Iron Man. I mean, as a listener, you already know you are about to be taken, on one of the heaviest rides, in rock history. I mean, this track to me isn't just a song. It's a piece of heavy metal DNA. You know, and to me, after listening to this song, I feel like Iron Man, is one of those songs that defined what heavy metal, even was. It's for my own personal opinion. I mean, this album was released in 1970, and I feel like before Black Sabbath, nobody was really, really writing riffs, this heavy, this dark, this slow and ominous, and the fact that Tommy Iommi, crafted that absolutely crushing riff, after his accident, where he lost the tips of his fingers, and had to change his guitar style, makes it even more legendary. The riff itself is hypnotic. It's almost like a giant machine stopping forward. You hear it once and it never leaves your head. Down, 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 down. Guys, this is crazy. This is just crazy. Now, let's talk about the lyrics, and the story behind the song. So based on a few facts that I pulled up, Jesus Butler, who wrote the lyrics, came up with this, almost comic book like sort of tale. A man, travels, to the future, sees the apocalypse, but on his way back, he's transformed into into this, iron-like, figure. Instead of being celebrated as a hero, he's ignored. He is mocked, and ultimately becomes the destroyer, of mankind. It's to me. It's both sci-fi and tragic. It's about alienation, it's about rejection, it's about revenge. And I mean, as the Osbourne's voice delivers it with this eerie, detached tone that makes you feel the pain and anger of his outcast character. Yes, musically, this is Black Sabbath firing all cylinders. Tony Iommi's guitar riffs is monstrous. That's for damn sure. Just the Butler's bass, I mean, thickens the sound. And Bill Ward's drumming, guys, listen to how he accents those crushing hits, guys. He really, really gives it that unstoppable momentum. And I personally, I loved it. The production is raw, compared to modern standards, but I feel like that is what makes it feel alive. I love the fact that it's gritty, it's unpolished, and real. And honestly, that heaviness definitely sets the stage for every metal band that came after. Yeah, I said it. I feel like without this song Iron Man, you don't get Metallica, you don't get Slayer, you don't get Pantera, you name it. I mean, the sound is way ahead of its time. So big question: what makes the Iron Man so special? To me, what makes the Iron Man so special is how timeless it is. You can play this riff today in front of a crowd, that's never heard of Black Sabbath, and they will still, headbang instantly, that's just my personal opinion, and I feel like that is power, total power. For me, this track, is a perfect, example of how Black Sabbath, combined heaviness and with storytelling. It's not just doom and gloom. It's a narrative. It's an atmosphere. It's an attitude. Even if you are not, a metalhead, you have to, respect the sheer, innovation here. So yeah, in my opinion, Iron Man isn't just a great song. It's one of the foundations, of, heavy metal. Yes. So, what do you guys also think? Does Iron Man still hit, as hard for you today, as it did back in the 70s. Do you remember the first time you heard that iconic riff? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's get into it. And if you're enjoying, these deep dives, into classic albums, and tracks, don't forget to, like, don't forget to hit the like button, and then subscribe, for more, deep reactions, deep cuts, such as this one. We move on to the fifth song, Electric Funeral. Let's take a listen, guys.
Flashes in the sky, turns houses into sty, turns people into clay, radiation minds decay. Robot minds of robot slaves, lead them to atomic rays. Plastic flowers, melting sun, fading moon falls apart. Dying world of radiation, victims of man's frustration. Burning globe of obscene fire, like electric funeral fire.
Yeah.
Buildings crashing down to a cracking ground, rivers turn to wood, ice melt into blood. Earth rising, dead man, clouds cry for the dead, terrifying rain is a burning pain.
Yeah.
And so in the sky
Yeah.
shines the electric eye. Supernatural king takes earth under his wing. Heaven's golden chorus sings. Hell's angels flap their wings. Evil souls fall to hell, ever trapped in burning cell.
All right, guys. Yes. So the fifth song, "Electric Funeral," guys. I mean, right from the very few seconds, listening to the song, I was hit, with that, twisted, wah wah, soaks riff, from yours truly, Tony Iommi. I mean, it doesn't sound like your typical guitar line. If you ask me, I mean, it almost feels like a siren, or a warning signal, setting the stage, for something catastrophic. Just the Butler's bass, is crawling underneath and together, with, Bill Ward's, slow, deliberate, drumming. I love the fact that it creates this, suffocating, sort of in the atmosphere. You can practically feel the doom, in the air. The lyrics, are absolutely brutal. Ozzy Osbourne, paints this post-apocalyptic, vision of nuclear war. People turned, to clay. Minds, decaying, the words burning. I mean, I love the fact that it's vivid and it's very much, a reflection of the Cold War anxieties, of the 1970s, based off a few facts that I pulled up. What I loved about this track, is how, the band didn't shy away from big, terrifying subjects. Instead of romance or a rebellion, they were giving us the listeners, social commentary, through horror. And Ozzy Osbourne's vocal delivery, flat, almost prophetic, makes it feel even more chilling, like a messenger, of doom. Halfway through, the song, takes this, unexpected turn. The tempo picks up. The riff, gets sharper, and suddenly, there's this, chaotic burst of energy, almost like the bomb, has dropped, and all hell, has broken loose. Then, just as quickly, it drops back into that, slow funeral march, sort of pace. That contrast, definitely makes the heaviness, hit even harder. To me, it's one of Black Sabbath's, best tricks, keeping the listener off balance, while still hammering the main theme home. I don't know if that makes sense, yes, but that's just me. Now, here's the thing. This song, Electric Funeral, may not be as famous, as Paranoid or, Iron Man, but to me, it's an absolutely essential Black Sabbath track. To me, this is doom metal before doom metal, was even a genre. The slow, crushing riffs, the apocalyptic imagery. Guys, I loved it. I mean, I feel like it's laid the foundation for, countless bands, that came after, and listening today, more than 50 years later, this song, still feels relevant. Those nuclear fears, that sense of, a world, on the edge, guys, I feel like I definitely resonates, even now. Yes. So overall, this song, Electric Funeral, to me, it's a dark masterpiece. I love the fact that it's heavy. I love the fact that it's unsettling, and I love the fact that it captures Black Sabbath at their most visionary. If you're new to Black Sabbath, I feel like at this track might not be the most immediate hit, but give it time. It will definitely grow on you, and I mean you start to realize just how powerful and ahead of its time it really was. But that's just me. That's just my thoughts. That's just my perspective about this song. I really want to hear from you. Do you think Electric Funeral is one of Black Sabbath underrated gems, or do you prefer there are more straightforward anthems like Paranoid and War Pigs? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I know this one would definitely spark some level of debate down in the comment section. Yes, let me know down in the comment section once again. Yes, so we are moving on to the sixth song, Hand of Doom. Let's take a listen, guys. Whoa. Yeah. Woo. Okay.
What you gonna do? Time's caught up with you.
Guys.
Now you wait your turn. You know there's no return. Take your empty roads. You join the other fools. Turn to something new. Now it's killing you. First it was the bomb. Vietnam, Nepal.
Wow.
Disillusioning. You push the needle in.
Doctor. Let's go. Okay.
Now you know the scene. Your skin starts turning green. Your eyes no longer see life's reality. Push the needle in.
Wow.
Face that sickly grin. Holes are in your skin, cut by deadly pen. Head starts spinning round. You fall down to the ground.
Yeah.
Feel your body heave. Death hand starts to weave. It's too late to turn. You don't wanna learn. Price of life you hide. Now you're gonna die.
Now you're gonna. All right, guys. Yes. So the said song in the Hand of Doom. Yes. So with this song, based on a few facts that I pulled up, Hand of Doom. This is Black Sabbath, taking, a hard look, at the growing heroin epidemic, that affected the soldiers, coming back from the Vietnam War. Whilst many bands at the time were writing psychedelic or feel good tunes, the Black Sabbath went straight for the throat. This song, to me, I feel like sounds more like a warning, not a celebration, and honestly, definitely feels relevant today. I love how the song, kicks off, with this, slow, menacing bass line, from yours truly, Jesus Butler. He's basically setting the stage for the darkness, that's coming. Bill Ward's drumming sneaks in, with a jazzy, almost unsettling groove, and then Tony Iommi's guitar locks in, with those, thick, heavy riffs. As I listen to this song, what's amazing is how the song, shifts the moods. One moment, it's slow and ominous, and the next, it explodes, with fast and aggressive, sort of energy. That contrast definitely kept you as a listener, on edge, the whole way through. The Osbourne's, vocals, his delivery, to me, is chilling here. He doesn't scream, he doesn't overdo it. He kind of narrates, this story of addiction, with a cold detachment that I feel like makes it even scarier. Certain lines in there, about slipping further, into drug use, losing control, and ultimately, facing death. I feel like really, really goes in and hits hard. It's not poetic, in a flowery way. It's direct, it's raw and uncomfortable, which is exactly the point. One of my favorite moments is the middle section where the tempo picks up. Bill Ward absolutely lets loose on the drums, whilst Tommy Iommi shreds some of his nastiest riffs, if you ask me. It feels chaotic, almost like the spiral of addiction itself, and then it drops back down to that eerie slow crawl, like the cycle starting all over again. This is definitely storytelling through music, and to me that is pure genius. After listening to this album, this track to me may not have been a big radio single like Paranoid or Iron Man, but to me it definitely shows how fearless, Black Sabbath, were, back in the 70s. They weren't just about riffs and heaviness. They were, tackling real, ugly social issues, through, heavy metal. Years before most bands even dared to. A lot of modern doom and sludge, metal bands, owe their entire, approach to songs, like Hand of Doom, in my own, personal opinion. So yeah, that's just me. I have to say, I mean, Hand of Doom, once again, to me, isn't just a song. It definitely feels like a statement piece. It's heavy, it's unsettling, and thought provoking. Black Sabbath, as always, they have, proved, they were way ahead, of their time, So yeah, if you've only heard the hits, from Paranoid, I feel like this track deserves, your full attention. But that's just me. I want to know what you guys also think. Do you hear Hand of Doom as a cautionary tale, or just one of Black Sabbath's darkest jams, and where does it rank, for you on this album, Paranoid? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading them. And yeah, so we move on to the seventh song, Rat Salad. Let's take a listen, guys. Wow, those drums, guys. What the? What? Yeah. Wow. Guys, wow, Rat Salad. This was something else. This song, was just 2 minutes and 29 seconds. Wow. And after listening to it, I have to say the first thing that, hit me personally, is that opening riff. Yours truly, Tony Iommi, and Giza Butler, lock into this, bluesy yet, heavy groove. I have to say, I mean, it's got that Black Sabbath grit, but you as a listener, you can feel, how rooted, it is in the blues. This is definitely a reminder that, while Black Sabbath, were, pioneering, heavy metal, they were still, pulling a lot of instrumentation, from rock and blues traditions, But the real spotlight here to me, that's, Bill Ward. This track, is basically his playground, for a big portion of the song, the guitar, and the bass, step back, and you are treated, to this extended drum solo, and what I loved about, Bill Ward's drumming, is that, it's not just about power, To me, it's full of character. As a listener, you hear the swing, the jazz influences, and the looseness, that makes it feel alive. Unlike some other, rock drum solos, of that era, that were very technical. To me, Bill Ward's, style, feels more raw and spontaneous. Almost like, he's jamming, with himself, in a club. Now, you could argue that Rat Salad, is more of an interlude, than a full song. That's just my personal, opinion. At about 2.5 minutes long, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It functions almost like a breather, in between the intensity, of the other tracks, on this album, Paranoid. But at the same time, it shows how Black Sabbath weren't afraid to experiment with pacing of their albums. What I think is really really cool is how the track connects to their live shows. Yes, based on a few facts that I pulled up, back in the early days, Black Sabbath would do long sets, and Bill Ward, would get extended drum solos on stage. Rat Salad to me is basically the studio version of that experience. So if you imagine hearing this live in 1970, it would have been a jaw-dropping, moment, in the middle, of their set. Yes. Once again, based on a few facts that I pulled up, comparisons, have been made, to Led Zeppelin's, Moby Dick, and I think that's fair. Both are, vehicles, for their drummers. But Black Sabbath, I feel like, puts their own stamp on it. I love the fact that it's darker, it's dirtier, and less, polished, which, in my opinion, fits, their whole aesthetic, perfectly. Overall, I feel like a Rat Salad, might not, be the track you think of, when you talk about this album, Paranoid. But it's an important piece, to the puzzle, if you ask me personally. Definitely shows that Black Sabbath, weren't just about riffs and Ozzy Osbourne's vocals. They were a tight unit of musicians, who could just let others, shine. For me, this track is like a hidden gem, and it definitely adds to the overall dynamics of this classic album. So I'll definitely throw it to you guys. Do you think Rat Salad stands on its own as a song, or do you see it more as an interlude within this album, Paranoid? And if you're a drummer, I want to hear your thoughts. How do you rate Bill Ward's solo win here compared to other rock drummers of the era? Please let me know down in the comment section, guys. We are here finally to the final song off of this album, Fairies In Boots. Let's take a listen, guys. Yeah. All right, guys. So that was the final song, off of this album, "Fairies Wear Boots." Yes. After listening to this song, I have to say, I mean, I love how the track, kicked off, with Tony Iommi's guitar, and right away, I was able to feel that, signature Black Sabbath groove. It's bluesy, it's heavy, and it's kind of layers you in, with this almost mischievous energy. Then the band, slides into that sludgy, hypnotic riff, that only, Black Sabbath, could pull off. In my opinion, I love the fact that it's not the fast-paced punch, of a Paranoid or the doom-laden weight, of Iron Man, but it's got its own swagger, its own flavor. Now, Ozzy's vocals, on here, on this song, are fantastic. He's not just singing. This man is a storytelling. The lyrics, are kind of wild and open to interpretation. So based on a few facts that I pulled up, this story, is that it came out of Ozzy Osbourne's run in with skinheads, back in the day, but Jizza Butler, who wrote most of the lyrics, hinted it was more about drug use, hallucinations. It was more hinted it was more about drug use, hallucinations, and just the weirdness of late 60s, early 70s, lifestyle. I mean, either way, you've got these surreal, almost tongue-in-cheek lines, about fairies, wearing boots, and Ozzy Osbourne definitely went and he delivered them, with this perfect balance of menace and humor. Yes, musically, everyone's firing, on all cylinders. Tony Iommi definitely went and he lays down, some killer riffage, as usual, but I mean, it's his solo work, in this track that really, really, really stood out to me personally. There's a point where, he just cuts loose and you can feel the blues rock roots, feeding into what would become heavy metal. Then you've got Jizzy Butler's bass, which is fat, which is driving and really really locked in with Bill Ward's drumming. Bill Ward, by the way, I mean, is doing some insane fills, here on this song. To me, he's one of those drummers who never plays it safe, and this track, is definitely, a great example of that. I mean, I love the fact that it's chaotic, but controlled, all at the same time. I have to say, what I loved about the song "Fairies Wear Boots," is that it shows, Black Sabbath's, versatility. This isn't just doom and gloom. It's fun, it's weird, and it's got a swing to it. And as the closing track, for this album, Paranoid, I mean, it definitely leaves the listener, in this trippy headspace. After songs, about war, paranoia, destruction, and cosmic journeys, you end with this surreal, bluesy jam, that just makes you grin. To me, this track also highlights why Black Sabbath, were so influential. They could take their blues foundation, twist it into something darker, something heavier, and yet still keeping it youthful. That's the DNA of metal right there, if you ask me. So yeah, overall, this song, once again, "Fairies Wear Boots," might not be the most famous track on this album, but it's definitely a fan favorite, for good reason. It's Black Sabbath, cutting loose, blending heaviness, with humor and showing they weren't afraid to, get experimental. As the Osbourne's voice, is iconic. Rest in peace to him. Tony Iommi's riffs and solos are definitely fire, and the rhythm section, is just relentless. So, if you've never heard it, guys, please give this one a spin. It's definitely the perfect example of early, heavy metal, with personality. And if you are already a fan, let me know down below what you think. Do you think Fairies Wear Boots, deserves more recognition compared to Black Sabbath's, bigger hits like, War Pigs and Iron Man? Please, drop your thoughts down in the comment section. So, we are done with this album. This album, like I said, was highly, highly, highly suggested. Shout out to, the subscriber that, insisted I check this one out. yeah, so that was Paranoid. Honestly, I get why this album is considered one of the greatest albums of all time. It's only 8 tracks, but every single one definitely leaves an impact. Black Sabbath managed to create an album that's heavy, that's dark and experimental and absolutely timeless. I feel like it laid the foundation for metal, for doom, for stoner rock, and even grunge, in some ways. And I feel like Ozzy Osbourne's voice, man, it just ties everything together, Yeah. So that's just me. That's just my take on this entire album, this entire classic album. But I definitely want to hear from you. What's your favorite track, from this album, Paranoid? Do you think uh, this is Black Sabbath's, best album, or does another one, take the crown? And if you are around, when this dropped in 1970, what must it have, felt like, hearing this sound, for the first time? Please let me know down in the comment section. Guys, if you enjoyed this reaction, if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, drop your comments, drop your thoughts, in the comments. And don't forget, to subscribe for more full album reactions such as this one. We've got plenty more classic and, metal journeys, ahead. So stick around. Until next time, keep the music loud and the vibes and heavy, and then keep rocking on. Peace out.